Welcome everyone to the Evolution of Proposal Management and Professional Services webinar today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us live or to watch the recording on this as well. We really appreciate it. My name is Ray Meiring. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of QorusDocs. And I'm really excited to have with me today Emily Gallagher. Emily, welcome. You're the Senior Director of Business Development at Womble Bond Dickinson in the USA. So thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to hearing from you. And Robert Garmaise, VP of AI Research at Infotech Research Group. So thank you as well, Robert. We look forward to getting many of your insights as well as we have the discussion today. We have a packed agenda that we're going to talk through, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to get through all of this material and everyone's going to see the value in what we're presenting. Some of the things that we plan to talk about. Firstly, how proposal management solutions are used in professional services. We're going to spend some time on that. We're going to talk a lot about AI, obviously, and considerations for incorporating artificial intelligence into proposal management. We'll dive specifically into Womble Bond and Dickinson, and Emily will help us with this around her function as business development in the US and her plans around AI integration. We'll also look at some insights that we will share with you around proposal management AI and just some comparisons that we'll do. And then we have a live demo. We just like to incorporate a bit of a live demo at the end of our presentations as well. So we'll do that. So let's get started then with our first piece of information, and it has to do with proposal management software. And of course, as the CEO of a proposal management software company, these statistics on the screens are very exciting for me to see, is the growth in proposal management tools and how organizations are adopting it and seeing the value from proposal management. 12.12% compound annual growth rate in the market for proposal management software, and a $6 billion market by 2023. Rob, maybe we can start with you. You speak to many customers, many vendors. How are you seeing proposal management software evolving, and especially with AI, obviously, as a recent advancement?
Sure. I'll start by saying, first of all clients looking to identify the use cases in AI that are right for them can be fairly overwhelming just with all the different categories available and all the aspects of AI. And having use cases that are well defined with vendors who can deliver is really job number one. So something like proposal management, which impacts virtually all companies, professional services or otherwise. We're all responding to RFPs. We're all trying to boost our sales teams. And something with such specific ROI. In a lot of AI, it's about maybe saving soft costs, improving cycle times, but here you really have the ability to improve results of the sales process, which every organization, large or small, is interested in. So we really see it being at the confluence of a lot of positive trends within the AI community.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And it's interesting that you point out that the ROI on that is around increasing revenues or growing the sales process there. And we're going to spend a fair amount of time talking about that as we go through the material today. Now, moving on to the next topic on this, what we've certainly seen is that there is a lot of generic software out in the market for AI, and there's a lot of specialist software. And actually, just before this presentation, we were just talking about some of the new stuff that's popping up in the market constantly. It's hard to keep track of all the new tools, all the new capabilities that are out there. But with many of our customers, we're seeing generalist tools used alongside specialist tools, and QorusDocs obviously regards ourselves as a specialist tool. Rob, can you comment on what you're seeing with generalist and specialist tools in the clients and the vendors that you're speaking to?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. It's finding the right balance. So you don't want too many tools. You don't want a plethora of tools. At the same time, some of these generalist tools can't always deliver what they say. So for example, not to pick on our friends at Microsoft, we co-pilot ourselves internally, not ready for enterprise rollout just yet. You know, kind of half of the features and functions work really well, half not so much. So the nice thing about a tool like QorusDocs and QPilot is you kind of have a good mix of both, a pretty meaty set of use cases that you can really improve, but not so broad that you're going to get lost in, features that maybe aren't quite ready yet.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing as well. Emily, can we ask you to comment as well? We know that Womble has Copilot, and you're a QorusDocs user, and you're about to start your journey on Qpilot as well. How did you think about that generalist versus specialist scenario as you were looking at these tools?
So for me, and managing the team of folks that have to work on these proposals in their everyday, we do have we are pretty far advanced with AI, and we do have other tools, but to have to take us out of our proposal and then take out the client information and anonymize it, because there are certain things you can't put into those tools, and it doesn't have access to certain documents. You have to upload a document library. It's just not really efficient, or you're not going to get the best result that you can. So we find a much better result with Qpilot. Not to spoil my session, I'm going to talk about more of them later, but yeah. It definitely makes a difference to have it in a closed system. It also was a lot easier to get it through our IT team. That's always a challenge in law firms as well.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. One of my favorite examples of this is just Excel. We get so many questionnaires in the proposal world coming through in Excel. It's the bane of our existence when we have to respond in Excel. But then you go into a tool like Microsoft Copilot, and you try and use that tool in Excel. And again, not to knock it, because it's really powerful in being able to do Excel type functions. But when you're answering a questionnaire in Excel, that's not the traditional use of a tool like Excel, right? So Copilot doesn't really work that well in that space, but a tool like Qpilot has been designed to answer questions in an Excel spreadsheet. And so it's really strong and really specialized in those areas. So we're definitely seeing that trend. Lots of our customers have Copilot, have ChatGPT, are using that for the more generic functions, but then the specialist is necessary to do those highly specialized proposal tasks. Some great comments there. Thank you so much. Every year we run this benchmark study, excuse me, and we ran a benchmark study once again in 2024. And what we were really interested to see as we ran this benchmark study was, how is AI going to make things different, right? Are we going to get a bunch of different results coming through? Now, QorusDocs will publish these results in a formal presentation to the market in January next year. But we thought we'd sneak in a couple of slides just to talk through what we're seeing there. The first thing is that in the past, the number one challenge that customers constantly faced is now the number 3 challenge, and that is creating content from scratch and getting started. So it seems that there's a change, because creating content used to be the main challenge that teams were facing. Now that's moved to, hey, we need to get content from our subject matter experts in time. Emily, does this align with some of the things that you're seeing in terms of challenges at Womble?
I think absolutely. Part of the biggest challenge for us is always, how do we get things out of people's heads and off of their desktop and into a place where we can make them easily accessible and have that knowledge transfer kind of within the firm. And for a lot of reasons, one of which is, if somebody leaves or goes somewhere else or is trying to take a vacation, we need to be able to access that information. And there's no way, with the amount of attorneys that we have and all of the practice areas that we cover, that you can have one person that can kind of keep track of all of that knowledge and be the subject matter expert. So,
and I'll just add, for professional services, legal included, often the sellers are also the deliverers.
yes.
And so when folks are working on a pitch, a proposal, an RFP, this is at the end of a very long week. You're not getting folks at their best. Time's extremely tight, and so quality will suffer if you're not using the best tools. It just makes sense.
Yeah, I've seen timelines over the years too become very condensed. We are lucky if we have 2 weeks. We used to have a month, maybe longer to respond to a large RFP, and now we're like 2 weeks is a long time.
Yes. And I think that speaks to point number 5 there, too few resources to handle requests. It's just a common challenge because those requests are being compressed in terms of their timeline. Maybe in certain cases, and we'll talk about this on the next slide, there's an increased volume of requests coming through, not enough people to do that. And of course, that's where AI tools come into play.
And even
I'm
2 weeks,
excited.
I would
Go
say
ahead,
it's
Rob.
even tighter than that because you may have 2 weeks, but that's only maybe a few hours of a
Yeah.
partner's time. So you really have to optimize.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see the evolution of this survey and the slide data because I think that AI is going to impact across all of these areas that we're currently challenged with and move the productivity needle on those areas as we're progressing through. The other thing, and I think we touched on this already, if we move on to that next slide, is just the volume of increase that we're seeing. So when we ran the survey, 54% of firms that we analyzed said that they have had an increase in the pitch volume year over year. Are you both seeing that in the market as well? Maybe Rob and the vendors that you speak to, are they under more pressure to do more with less? How are you seeing things there?
Everyone's under pressure to do more with less. Everyone is finding it hard to scale. Here we are in a weird macroeconomic environment where there's inflation still a little bit at hand, but growth is a little harder to come by. And so any leg up that folks can get in any part of the operation, but sales especially, I think is really valued. And to the point about this, I think because there are more and more tools like QorusDocs, it's just becoming easier for folks to make quality pitches. So you kind of have to stay in line or you're going to fall behind.
Yeah, that makes sense. You seeing pressure as well, Emily, to do more in terms of pitches?
We have definitely seen an increase in volume, but I think maybe unpopular opinion. We're more focused on not trying to do more with less, but to do better, right? So really we're taking a look at, go, no go decision. Should we be responding to all of these? When we do respond, how are we going to respond in a way that's going to really bring that ROI, right? I care more about conversions and dollars in the door at the end of the day than I do how many did we respond to, because that's just activity for activity's sake. So really trying to get to the quality over the quantity is kind of where we're focused.
So that's a key takeaway. There's pressure to do more, but really what you're doing very successfully, Emily, is making sure you're doing the right pitches and the right RFPs that you have a much higher propensity to win. And you're using tools to help you to do that. That's excellent. Well, let's move across into your story. We'd love to hear a little bit more from you, Emily, about how Womble Bond and Dickinson was thinking about software. I know you've been with Womble for about 5 years now, and you have a substantial team underneath you as well. So can you just share with us a bit about your the background, how you got set up, what were you considering as you moved down your proposal management journey?
Yeah, sure. So I did start about 5 years ago. I came in specifically to stand up and create a pursuits process and build a pursuits team that has evolved over the years. So we now have 10 practice aligned business development professionals that handle pitches, proposals, things like that, and then 2 centralized pursuits team that focus strictly on formal RFPs, RFIs, client surveys, things like that. And we're all part of a broader, obviously, client development organization within the firm. So the evolution is I came in, I created the formal process, came up with the go, no go kind of decision making, kind of introduced that concept to the firm because it typically was whatever came in the door, we didn't ask any questions, turned it out, put the stock content in there. So deployed Chorus, which was Breeze at the time for me. I got special dispensation for that, and really started to develop the centralized repository, built the team around it so that we started to get some pursuits experts in there. We our evolution follows that proposal management software evolution style. You know, we got centralized resources, dedicated resources. Then we went to the QorusDocs. So we had the online version of it, which was a lot more agile, allowed us to integrate with our CRM, with Salesforce, which was super helpful in tying that ROI back. And now we're looking at our kind of roadmap for 2025 with proposal management is to look at some further integrations with some other softwares that we've been rolling out using the Smart Lists feature. And then we are piloting QPilot right now and about to launch it Q1. So that is where we're going with it. And that is the smart skills alone are just killer to me, and saving time. You know, you talk about saving time and being more strategic. Really, it's not saving time, it's being able to redirect that time so that we're having that higher quality. You know, the proposals that are going to win are the ones where the clients know you understand their business, not just that you answered the questions, right? That's where we see the wins happen. So that's what we're really looking at. If I can take away, you know, the amount of time the hour that it takes to create a working document by clicking a button, if I can take the hour that it takes to proofread and make sure there's 2 spaces after a period instead of 1, and, you know, all those general kind of last minute checks that you do, and that last minute check becomes really like, have we answered this question, and not just put some stock content in there and, you know, called it a day, because that's all we could get. You know, yeah. So that's where we're going.
And it's those micro interactions. Sometimes it's the 10 minutes or the 20 minutes that we spend, you know, reading a section of content for quality that can now be condensed radically. And when you add all of that up, then you get a significant time saving, and we'll talk about how that translates back into, you know, higher quality, which is what you've mentioned already. When you were analyzing the market and making decisions around the proposal management tools and QPilot, what were some of the things that you looked at in terms of a proposal management tool that were really important to you? You mentioned skills and AI, but were there other things that were really important to you as you looked at the tools?
Yes, so I have been at a couple of firms and compared a couple of proposal management softwares at each, and I do wind up coming back to Chorus because for me, I love the panel and that you do not have to get out of what you are currently in. So the more that we can have the integration, the easier I make it for my team to be able to get the final documents in the right place, so that then we can use those final documents to have a best of repository. You know, the more that I can build it into their workflow and not have to have them take it out, and that just creates time, right? Or do searching on, you know, a document library system that's not built to actually search the text and pull back, you know, relevant information. That's really what I looked for. So having the panel right there, you can, you got to add a bio, you just pop the bio in. I mean, that is super time saving than having to copy, paste, reformat over and over again.
We hear that a lot about context switching and having to go from one app into the other app and then reformat as it comes back in and so forth. So that's certainly a value point that many of our customers have. Rob, I've got a question for you. It's kind of related, but we've heard of a number of law firms that are building their own AI tools, right? Are you seeing much of that? And how do you think about, you know, the build versus buy discussion? Obviously, Emily went down the buy route, which, you know, we're very happy about, but what are you hearing with that?
Let's say we think Emily is very wise. So we do have clients who have tried to build where they didn't have to. I would say, generally speaking, AI build projects relatively low rates of success.
Right.
And there are so many great solutions now available on the market for so many categories, including pitches. Why build when you can buy? So that's increasingly the message we're taking to our clients. And it saves you time. It gets you quicker to value, saves you money. And even worse, you may build a solution today that becomes obviated by the market a year or two down the road. So we say buy before you build, and only build where you absolutely have to.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it particularly makes sense when you think about a tool like QPilot. You know, we get to aggregate feedback from so many of our customers in what's important to them and how they're thinking about it, what problems they have. I mean, Emily, you spoke about skills. A lot of the skills that we've developed into the tool have come through a collaborative effort with our customers to understand what's the real pain point, what's the real application of this technology into a law firm and proposals and pitches and RFPs versus just a single lens, which maybe one firm would have into those problems and those capabilities as well. So it allows us to build for breadth there and to cover a number of use cases.
And there's
Yeah,
value in that. I'm sorry, Emily, you go first.
that's okay. I was going to say, one of the important things too for me with going with something that's not kind of home built is that integration piece because it allows for continuous content improvement. And that's not just the content itself, but it also is, if we can develop a true best ever repository because we can tie it back to what were the winning proposals? What did we say in the winning proposals? What did we do different in those versus others, right? And then that data and the win rate data can also kind of flow back in and inform and refine our go no go process. When do we win? And so the more that we can extrapolate out of that, and that comes from having that more sophisticated system for me.
And I was just going to add, indirectly, you benefit by buying, you benefit from learning from everyone else's workflow. You may think you understand your own workflow, but boy, what's Emily doing to optimize her pitch and proposal process? And one thing that really impressed me about QorusDocs, it really fits to your workflow, so you can automate your outlines. From your outline, then you can quickly build parts of the pitch, and it's not kind of just one simple button that maybe gets you into the wrong spot. It's more thoughtful than that. And I think you get that through the buy process better than the build process.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And great comments as well, Emily. I think, the way that Womble integrates with the Salesforce application, to be able to truly understand how your pitches are impacting revenue and billings and so forth is really amazing. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you do that and integrate the two Salesforce into QorusDocs?
Oh, sure. It was really easy for me. And it was an hour for my CRM manager on the phone with QorusDocs. It was a plugin. So we track all of our opportunities, all of the fields through the pipeline in Salesforce. And then there is just a little panel, that lovely QorusDocs panel. So my team can go ahead, we enter in our opportunity in Salesforce. And then when we're ready to generate the proposal, we just go ahead and click a button in the Chorus panel. It creates that project space for us where we can upload all the documents, generate a proposal response or a pitch. And then the finals are right there too. So if I go back and I say, okay, what pitches have we done for M&A in the retail space? I can pull that up in Salesforce, and then I can easily access the past documents, or I can go in Chorus and just do a search of the pursuits archive. Yeah.
Right, because that indicates that you've got that data flowing into the pursuit, and you can now track that. You can truly understand, win rate or the revenue that's attributed to those pitches there. You've got all of that information that's free flowing between those systems.
Right. And so so you don't have to leave that space. And then, Salesforce is also integrated with our financial system. So then I go and I say, okay, we won. Now what matters did we open? And I tie them to the matters. And then I can press a button and have a report from Salesforce that says, of the 2023, of the 500 pitches you did in 2023, you won this many. And it's, you've generated $14 million in revenue or whatever it might be. And that's nice to be able to send up to firm leadership, for sure.
That's incredibly powerful. Rob, are you seeing a similar value from integration of AI tools with other capabilities? We tend to think of it very much about writing and content, but what about further integration of these tools into other systems in the general ecosystem?
Absolutely, and we're seeing strength in the marketplace across a variety of categories. Functionally speaking, for IT, there's plenty of solutions: sales, marketing, operations, admin, HR, you name it. But I think really what's at play here, including in this area specifically, is a culture shift towards better collaborating. And we are not great collaborators currently. There's too much information to share. We all have our private stores. I think lawyers may be as bad as anyone in terms of, just go with what's in my precedent list, and that's probably good enough. But with tools like QorusDocs, I can start to learn from fellow practitioners, other parts of the organization, and really make sure that the best practices are coming to the fore. So that, to us, let alone all the cost savings, time savings, and revenue enhancement, I think that might even be the most exciting part, is just what we could do with knowledge in these organizations if we get the right tools working together.
Right, making that knowledge more democratic. Very good. Well, if we look at the next slide here, it kind of talks to some of the findings we had in the research that we did of what are the expected benefits from AI. And I think we've touched on some of these as well. Quickly drafting and optimizing content. 84% of respondents said that was important, and they expected to see that benefit there. But the next two, more time for personalized responses. Emily, I think you've mentioned that. That's a key requirement for you, right? Personalizing that. So just to be clear, you reuse the time and put that into more quality type activities.
Right. So I think a challenge for business development professionals and law firms is that we are constantly looking to be just like we want to save the time, the non-billable time. We want to maximize the non-billable time that the attorneys are spending on business development, right? I want to maximize the time that my team is spending on business development as well. And making sure that we're delivering value, because we are a cost center. We cost them money, and we are not timekeepers, so we are not directly bringing in the revenue. So any way that we can redirect that time spent to more strategic things that can show that we're adding value and bring the value that we have to the attorneys and to the process, that's where we want to be focused and where we want to utilize AI to get there. Yes. Let it do the proofreading, let it do the tone of voice, let it do that stuff, and let us do what we're good at, what we're subject matter experts on.
And I will say that is something, when we were first, considering QPilot, we saw it as a great writing tool. But what we've learned is that it's a great reading tool, right? And I think that fourth or fifth one there is checking responses and flagging risks. It's able to really read through, compare it to tone of voice, compare it to red flags that you might have, and come up and say, here's some risk areas in your RFP response or your pitch that you might want to reconsider as you're thinking about this proposal. So it's not just, hey, let's write some content here. It's let's read a bunch and give feedback as well on that.
Yeah, which is great, because one of the things that I really loved too is you can say, hey, look at this evaluation criteria that they provided, and now kind of analyze my response and how am I doing? Like, did I meet this? Am I responding to this? Are we getting there? And that's stuff that sometimes we just don't have time to get to. Shorter turnaround times, waiting on the attorneys to give us back information. And so you're just trying to make sure that your document is proofread sometimes before you can hit submit. And so to be able to save that, I think AI is really going to make a big impact.
I will say, though, not to skip past the first few items on the list, we've spoken to some leading adopter clients who pointed to QorusDocs helping them improve this process by 5x, so 5 times faster. And man, that's going to be hard to compete with. If you're on the process that's 5 times slower, you will fall behind, no matter how heroic your practitioners are. So it's hard, that's hard to pass up in and of itself.
Yeah, thank you for weaving that in, Rob, because we're definitely seeing those kind of substantial improvements in reading, writing type activities that are taking place. Rob, are there any other points on this list here that you've seen, more generally out there that AI is bringing that benefit? Maybe it wasn't necessarily an expected initial benefit.
I'll pick the risk one a little bit, because some folks have the impression AI kind of adds risk to the organization. But I think people generally underestimate the amount of risk they already face. They're putting out all this documentation maybe it's not quality controlled as well as it can be. Now you have tools that can ensure some standards are enforced, that the quality is high. And so we see tools like QorusDocs really substantively reducing risk for the organization. And I think that's critical, especially if we're talking about a law firm, but any professional services organization where folks, as I mentioned before, maybe a little bit frazzled when they get time to putting pen to paper. You want a tool that's going to help work with your talent to make sure that a quality result is achieved. And this is a great example to me.
I really love that, because I think there is that perception that AI is risky, but when you think about what it de-risks on the other side of that, as you mentioned, that's just a huge benefit from it.
Yeah, and if you're in the right hands, the risk is really relatively low.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. With the technology risk. Let's talk about the recent Infotech report, Rob, that you guys ran there. Shameless plug, QorusDocs is really so happy to be in the top right corner of this quadrant once again, second year in a row. 100% of those surveyed said that it was critical to professional services, and 95% love using QorusDocs. But maybe you can share with us, how does Infotech go about setting up these reports that you have here? What are some of the findings that you uncovered as you looked at the market?
Yeah, so we have two sets of activities. First, we have our analysts really hone in on the category, the players, have interviews with QorusDocs as we have, with QorusDocs clients as we have, and that's kind of one stream. That didn't affect this positioning whatsoever. The second stream is we just field feedback from clients, customers, adopters out there worldwide. And so this is really, here's what the market is telling us, let alone what our analysts think. And by the way, our analysts are pretty bullish. This is the market telling us these guys are a leader for the following reasons. So that to us really speaks loudly, because this is clients actually saying, yeah, we've adopted it, it works. Go ahead and use it. You're going to have a good experience.
Thank you. Are there specific categories and things that you look at as you're analyzing? We can see maybe some of the points there on the screen, but how do you categorize and break things down to come up with these scores?
We certainly look at feature functions, and is the tool competitive with what else is in the market? We like to focus not just on the functionality, but also on the experience. What was it like working with the vendor? What was the service experience like? What was the overall experience like? Would you contract with this vendor again? And that figures prominently into our scores as well. So you have a nice balance of, is this an outfit you actually want to have a relationship with? And is this a tool that can actually meet your needs? And when you have both at play, that's really where you start getting towards the northeast part of the quadrant, which is exactly where you are.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. One of the things I love about your report is that kind of emotional footprint of the vendors,
Exactly.
and where that emotional footprint is left behind. And obviously, QorusDocs scored very highly in that. So we're very proud of this accolade, and we thank you for Infotech's support of us in that space there. Emily, let's talk a little bit about ROI, right? As the next subject here. We like to think about ROI in like this value waterfall, because everybody talks about how much time they're saving when it comes to AI and proposal management software. And that's certainly a factor. Time saving is one of the initial products, but what does that lead to? And I think you've touched on this strongly in your presentation today. It leads to higher quality proposals. That's what you do with the time, right? You put that into higher quality proposals. What we're also seeing as another byproduct of that time is lowering team stress. And this might seem like a soft benefit, but it's really not, because what we've seen with our customers is that lower team stress means lower staff turnover, more happy teams, which ultimately comes back to higher quality proposals being put out at the end of the day. Now, you've made it very clear that you're not about just doing more for the sake of doing more. You're about quality. Some of our customers, maybe in other verticals, are also very volume driven. So they are about, can we get to more bids and RFPs that we couldn't get to before? So scale is important to them. And so those two factors need to play into it. But ultimately, and Rob, you mentioned this right at the outset, more client wins, increased revenue. That's how we're seeing this waterfall stack out. So maybe the first point is, any comments from you, Rob or Emily, on how you're seeing the value waterfall play out in terms of AI? Rob, if you
Oh,
want to take that
yeah.
question first, yeah.
I'll start by just saying, broadly speaking, we're seeing more and more solutions now that offer what we call exponential returns. And by exponential, we mean not a payback within 3 years, like of technologies in years gone by, but in 1 year maximum, often even in the first few months. And that's really where we see QorusDocs. It's that quick to implement. We're talking weeks, not months, and the value accrues quickly. So when you have solutions like that, it's really a matter of, how do I get my arms around it? How do I get it in place? And even if you're not sure what you want to do long term with this area, just use it for a few years, learn about AI. You'll pocket the savings, and in a few years down the road, who knows what'll come next, but you'd be well positioned for that. So we think these are relative no-brainers, just given the ROI equations that we're seeing.
Thank you, Rob. Emily, you put an ROI report together to justify AI and QPilot purchase. Can you talk a bit about how you did that and what was involved in that process?
Yes, it would be repeating a lot of what I've already kind of talked about and said, but I do think that a piece of it that we haven't touched on yet, and is this lower team stress and the reduced staff turnover. It's a huge problem in our industry because it is very demanding to be a business development position at law firms. You're working with very smart people on very tight turnarounds and handling a wide remit, right? So pitches and proposals is just one small piece of what a business development professional has to do in a law firm. So stress levels are definitely high. So the less turnover I can have on my team, when people walk out the door, all that institutional knowledge, all that SME stuff, that walks out the door with them. And then, and then having been involved in the recruiting process myself, that takes me out of the game for a good portion of 6 months to a year while I'm trying to fill, another position. So I don't think we can undervalue that ROI too much. Yeah, so that definitely was a big piece of my pitch as well. That the other stuff is kind of easy to see. It's easy to justify. This is kind of the unseen piece.
Yes, that's right. It's hard to put into a business case that request that came in on Friday afternoon that needed to be completed by Monday, and now you got to ask people to work over weekends, extend long hours, whatever it is. And we actually had an exact example of that with one of our customers where a request came in like 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and they used AI to accelerate that process, kind of giving them their Sunday back. They would have had to work that. But it sounds like a small thing, as you said, but that's huge. That's huge in our ability to do our functions and our jobs properly.
Yeah, happier people are going to be more productive in general. So yeah.
Definitely. Well, let's just share with the audience some of the data that we've seen over the last 6 months, really. We've seen an 84% reduction in time on creating proposals, and a huge part of that is in generating the content. So that first piece there, just generating the content, 39% improvement in time in composing answers, 12% in quality assurance, 7% in content management. And to be quite honest, this is a fairly small subset that we've looked at over 6 months, but we were blown away by these statistics as they came up. And we literally asked many who were involved in this process to time yourself manually doing this piece of work. Now go run the same piece of work through QPilot and time yourself again and see what the results are. And I think, on the quality assurance and the content management pieces, we didn't really focus there. We focused a lot on the generate content. But I think in the quality assurance, as we said, that's just going to boost, as is content management, as we just add more capability into the market. Rob, you spoke about 5x in some of the customers you've spoken to. Anything resonate with you on this slide? think, did we lose Rob there? Did he freeze for a second? Okay, well, Emily, you're still moving, so that means it's not me. So that's good.
I don't
Well,
know
we'll
that
give
I can
Rob.
answer that question though,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, good. Well, I think Rob mentioned 5x, right? He said that they've seen 5x and they've spoken to a number of customers that are using QPilot as well. Seems like a good time to switch into a demo. Let's go there and actually show some of that. What we're going to do is we have very limited time, so we're not going to take you through like the full end-to-end use case of QorusDocs and QPilot. We're going to talk through, just maybe 3 specific scenarios. But what is important is that QPilot is effective across the whole process here, everywhere from the bid no bid process all the way through to the finalist presentation. So it has really a very broad application there. So let's go ahead and present. I can just be the presenter, and then I should be able to share my screen, and we can do that. Just waiting for. There we go. All right, Emily, can you see that screen? Very good. And Emily, as I'm going through this, please feel free to just call out if you see something that you're excited about or that's of interest to you. So we're going to go into this fictitious firm called Truton Levinson, and we'll do most of the demo in this fictitious world. Just very quickly, QorusDocs connects into your content sources, and I think Emily pointed this out. So it can connect into your bios, into your experience, into your SharePoint environment, into a lot of the areas that you store your marketing content. So a lot of the content we'll use in the demo will come out of those various aspects of content that are stored in a firm. And again, Emily, I love that point about that library of approved content, because that's such a critical piece that you've mentioned there. We also have a capability called pursuits. Emily referenced pursuits, and pursuits are essentially a connection basically to your opportunity that might be sitting there, and it provides you this composite area to collaborate and to work on the documents around that pursuit, but it also pulls in the data from, let's say, Salesforce or your CRM tool, so that you've got all of that information available and ready there. So with that context, let's jump into a scenario. Let's imagine that we've received an RFP that we need to respond to. I've received that RFP, I've uploaded it into my pursuit, and here it's sitting in this view, and you can see some of the information on that RFP. And I want to start using QPilot now to do some stuff with this to increase that productivity. So to do that, I'm able to just click on that QPilot button in this preview window, and it'll pull out QPilot so that I can work with it over there on the right-hand side. And I can now interact with the document. Now, we could just do a simple thing like, say, summarize this document. And you'll see that it's going to give me a whole bunch of options in that prompt area, again, pointing to my content that I might want to use. But we'll just run a simple prompt like that. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to build out a summary of this document in a few seconds for me. So the first point is, you can just prompt it, just like you would with any other generative AI tool to do stuff. You don't have to be limited into what you're able to do. But very often, we don't want to spend time just building out a ton of prompts ourselves, and it can seem quite daunting to do that. So here's the smart skill capability. We're able to go in and preset these prompts up with a best practice prompt that's already run or already works. So we know that this extract key information from RFP, that prompt is going to essentially run that same process again, but this time with a little bit more structure, because this is the structured way that we might look at that. Emily, this must play into bid no bid decisions as you're analyzing content.
Yeah. So, and what I love about these predetermined prompts is, the skill level, depending on who within your organization is preparing the response, this kind of level sets the skill level. Some people are at a different point in their career. Some people have a different level of AI prompting knowledge. And so this just kind of gives everybody the same quality control over how we're evaluating and extracting information from the RFPs.
Exactly. Set up centrally and baseline, and then we can just build off that. So we might use this outcome now to inform a bid no bid decision, to basically plan how we're going to respond, to make sure that we didn't miss any requirements in the document. It's there and it's built in. In the interest of time, let's fast forward a little bit into the actual response document. And what I've done is, pre-set up one of these response documents. QorusDocs templating would generate this response, put in all the client information. It might even populate some sections. For instance, we have a prompt that will build out speaker notes for an executive summary in here. So it's already built the speaker notes for me, or the writer notes, should I rather say, and put all that information, and it's kind of preset a lot of things. But let's look at a very common scenario that we often see, and that is the use of biographies, right? Biographies are always a fun exercise to put them in. Now, in this particular case, we want to use a biography of a new person that's recently joined the firm. And we actually have received their bio. If I go back here, I can show you that here's Mary Ann Bates' biography, and it's her personal bio. That's in this very plain format here. It almost looks like it's been downloaded off LinkedIn. It doesn't adhere to Shute Levinson at all in terms of their formatting. In preparing for this pitch, though, we interviewed Mary Ann, and we asked her a bunch of questions about her experience and her capabilities and her background with this particular subject. In this case, this is about an energy project that she's being asked to work on. Now, if we go back into the document, if we wanted to insert Mary Ann Bates's bio in here, we'd have to go and reformat that whole bio and then tailor that bio to be energy related and go through that pretty long process. But what we're going to do is we're going to use an AI template. I'm going to go to this template called a tailored resume. This template's got a lot of AI prompts embedded in the template. So it's going to read and it's going to reproduce content. So let me click in here and insert a tailored resume. It's going to load up that screen for me. And in a second, it will give me an option of what I want to source this information. Always a little bit slow. I'll be running go-to meeting for some reason. So let's use this template, but this time we're going to say we want to use the call transcript and the original resume or biography to build out this version of it. So I'm going to run this now. What's happening in the background is the AI is now reading through that call transcript. It's reading through her personal resume. It's populating a bunch of fields here and generating these sections, very specific sections. Let me just go choose a headshot for her as well, which I have here. There's Mary's headshot, and I'm going to put that in. And let's hit the insert button and see what it does now. So it's read the call transcript, it's read her personal biography, and it's using a template. And it pops it into a beautiful, formatted Mary Ann Bates, Shute Levinson biography that comes in there, all off that baseline call that we did and off that resume. And ultimately, it's also looked at renewable energy sources. So it's tailored the professional overview to the subject of this RFP that we're responding to, which is huge. It's been able to rework that. Emily, any comments on that? I know biographies and resumes, sometimes they're auto-generated from the website and so forth, but
yeah, I didn't even know it could do that. So I'm super excited. I'm going to be talking to my folks about that at Chorus. What I have found helpful is more for finding people. So we've got like 600 plus attorneys. And so I'll use the prompt to say, who do we have that's got, what kind of experience do we have with like FICRA or some kind of niche, area? And the AI will return, a summary, and then also cite the sources so I can just insert the bios right from there. I love that part. So
yeah, fantastic. So finding, writing, rereading, and reformatting, as we've seen
yeah,
here.
yeah.
I'll do one more thing here using Qpilot. We spoke a lot about quality assurance and how important that is. I'm going to run what we call a check for red flags prompt. This is a prompt that we've set up in the background. It's a skill that looks at tone and looks at red flag type scenarios and will call out any problems that it sees in this document. Now, it's not a complete document yet, but let's just see what it does. Okay, so this one is not yet complete. Let's actually go to a different skill here and do a document review and quality check. So now it's going to do something very similar. If you look at the prompt here, what it's looking for is consistency, accuracy, clarity, coherence, and comprehensiveness. And it's reading through this document. It's about to build out a report for me or an overview for me on any red flags that it's found in this document, which I can now progressively work through to go and resolve or correct those challenges there. And you can see some of the issues that it's finding. There was a consistency issue in two of the areas here, maybe with the table of contents or the date format or ambiguous content used. So it's helping us to get better at writing. It's making the suggestions, not just a spell check or a grammar check, but hey, this tone is off, this accuracy is off, this is not consistent. Those things are hugely time consuming to do them manually, but can be done in a couple of seconds just through AI. Very good. Rob, good to have you back. We noticed you dropped off for a second.
Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem.
But I did have one
Rob,
slide
I inaccurately answered all the questions for you. Don't worry about it.
I appreciate that. Well done. I'll review them later. The one slide I had in mind was, and this harkens back to it, is where you were showing how you improve each activity by various increasing levels of effectiveness. I would imagine it's a different mix now. When you're looking at your pitches, proposals, practice, you're going to be doing more reviewing, more refining as a percentage than you did before. Because before, folks were just struggling to get the documents together. Now you can sit back and have these kinds of strategic assessments delivered to you. So to me, that's part of the value as well.
Absolutely, Rob. And I think, we're not going to talk too much about the QorusDocs roadmap today, but one of the key things on our roadmap is the quality process. We focused a lot on the writing and the reading. The next big thing for us is that quality process. How do we make it easier to identify challenges in the document, in the process, gaps, and use AI to plug those or to point a human towards the resolution to those problems so that we can drive that quality up. All right, well, thank you for watching that demo. That was a really rapid fire demo, but we just wanted to give everyone on the call a little taste for it. Obviously, we'd be more than happy to do more in-depth demos as we're going along. So let me stop sharing, and I'm going to go back to Jennifer. Let's go back. Jennifer, I actually can't make you presenter here, so maybe I'll just talk through the last little bit.
I got it for you, Ray.
Have you got it? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions in here too.
Very good. Should we do the questions? I really want to make sure the audience can speak to Emily and Rob with their questions.
Absolutely. Okay, so first question, actually a couple of questions here from Gordon. First one, is the analyze RFP content skill pre-configured by QorusDocs, or do clients need to set that up themselves?
So we provide the baseline of that prompt for you. So it's pre-configured with the baseline of the prompt. You can then take that and customize that further as you want to do it, because we know that every different firm is going to be slightly nuanced in the way that they think about that. So those prompts are baseline. You can build from there.
Perfect. All right, I have an Emily question. Assuming a firm has not done any work to centralize its pitch and proposal materials, how long does it take to develop the library of approved content for QorusDocs to consume? And do you have some best practices to share, since you've probably done that a couple of times?
I really wish when I had to do it, I had AI. I will tell you that. It's going to take a lot less time now than it took for me 5 years ago. But I would say it took a dedicated person. So at first it was just me, and it took a good few months to really kind of parse out and get the history. You know, we were working with a document repository system, file site, or now NetDocs we've moved to, and so it's how do you get the content from there and format it in a way that works in QorusDocs. But you know, it's painful. It will be much less painful with AI, but it's worth it. It's the result is it saves so much time after you're done with that hard part.
And Emily, you mentioned the cook function to me in the past as well. How you use that cook function to get content from one area back into that library. Is that still something that you're using?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that feature as well. So, you know, you spend time, you develop a really good response, and then, you know, it goes out into, usually what would happen is it would go out into the, you know, it would live in that document and in your brain. And then a year later, you'd be like, I know I've answered this question before, or like, what RFP was that again? But like, which of the 500 that I did last year, could it possibly be? And so now it just, again, goes back to like making it easier to get the information into an area where it's easily accessible by all. And that's just the clip feature. So I've got a document. If the final document ends up in the library, we can find it. But if I've got something that I know I'm going to use again and it's reusable content, can right from the Word document, just highlight it and hit a button, and it goes up to the content review team to incorporate into the repository. So super easy.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the questions I've got in the queue. Others can put some in, but I think it's probably getting near the top of the hour. So if anyone has any other questions for follow-up, you can email us at info@webinars@QorusDocs.com or webinars@QorusDocs.com. We'll get right back to you. But maybe we should let folks have a minute before they have to run to their next meeting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Emily and Robert. It was wonderful having you on, and I really appreciate answering all the questions and all the good things that you shared. Certainly, I've learned a number of things in this discussion today, but I appreciate your insights very much. Thank you for being on with us, and thank you to everyone that joined us today.
Thank you both. It was a great webinar. Bye, everybody.